Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host is Nicole Slack. And I almost feel like this is a time machine for today's podcast because we're going, what was the cartoon? They had a Wayback Monitor. I can't remember what that was. But we're going way back because I love hearing these stories about how Odyssey House existed and worked way back when. And this isn't even back when we'd still been around for a number of years, and now we're like 52 years. So our guest is Lawrence Stanton, and it's really interesting. Lawrence ran into the person who runs one of our programs.
I made a phone call.
Or is that it?
I was coming up on 30 years sober. And
Yeah, usually we don't hear 30 years sober.
I made a phone call. I wanted to see if I could come visit the house and walk through, and if anybody wanted to hear my story.
Yeah. And she contacted me, and I thought, wow, it would be fun to go back in history. So you and let me see, how old? I won't ask you how old you are, Nicole, but you were either not born or a little kid when he was going to Odyssey House.
In 94, yeah, I was 11.
Yeah.
See, and I was in my 30s.
So you went to Odyssey what years?
May 9th, 94, I walked in the front door as a volunteer.
94, and when Lawrence came in here, he started the conversation. How long have you been sober?
29 years, 7 months, 3 days, 1 hour, and 13 minutes.
Not that sobriety matters to him at all, but that's something to be proud of.
I can give you like a general week where I think
Yeah.
that's when I was stopped
I
drinking. You
polished
got it
off.
like down, man.
I polished off 2 beers on my way in because I knew that was it, and I was going sober.
Well, now you told me a story when I talked to you on the phone about a packet of coke. Your drug of choice was cocaine, right?
Cocaine, yes.
Okay, so you were driving from Wyoming to Odyssey House.
From the time I decided that I was going to be sober, people ask all the time, "How do you do it?" You got to want it really bad. You got to want it. You got to want it so bad it's unreal. But so it took me a week or two to get my stuff in order so I could leave, get my kids set up, and hitch a ride to Salt Lake. My mom lives down here. I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to go. I got out of Dodge, and I was going to do it. I didn't know how it was going to happen. 3 days later, I was in Odyssey House.
Did you go to the adult house downtown?
Yes.
That was the only house we had back
That
then.
was you had the youth.
Oh, did we have
You had a youth.
on Second South?
I don't remember where
It
it
may have
was.
been
I
a
know
different
we picked
place.
people up once in
Yeah.
a while and did things with them
And
sometimes.
so, but in the car, you told me you had some cocaine with you.
Yeah, when I crossed the state line, I threw the last of my cocaine out the window because a couple $100, whatever. It doesn't matter because if you're going to wait to quit smoking until you run out of cigarettes, you're never going to quit. That's how it works. So when people ask me, when did I know I was going to stay sober? The day I quit.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
It's
a
a
pretty
frame-
succinct answer.
it's a frame of mind.
Yeah.
I
It
didn't.
just sounds so simple.
It wasn't that easy.
And you, what made you make that decision, and how active a user were you?
I'd sit down and do an 8-ball and decide whether or not I do another one. Every day.
Constantly.
Yeah. I'd buy an ounce, sell half, do the other half. Buy another ounce, sell half, do the other half. And I'd do that 2-3 times a week.
For how long?
That run, because I've been doing drugs for 20, 30 years, my whole life, since I was 11. But that run was probably about a year and a half long. So.
A stupid question, because I used to do some cocaine while I was drinking. Well, how much did an 8-ball cost back then?
I got 1 rock ounce for $1,400.
And then, you cut it in half.
No. Yeah, I dished out. I cut grams off of it and sold it.
Okay.
I never got caught. Ever.
So you never were incarcerated?
Nope.
Wow.
But I was 150 pounds. I was going to die or I was going to be in jail. I'm on 210 right now,
Yeah.
and I'm not that fat. So I was 150 pounds, and the reason I quit, I was okay being a junkie. I didn't have a problem with it. I full function, have a good time. I'm a musician.
Okay.
I do a lot of other things too, but I was raising 2 children, and this was probably 3 years after my wife left, whatever, and it wasn't fair to them. It was affected more than my life. I was okay being a junkie, but I was affecting other people, and it's not fair.
Wow. Because a lot of people who come into our program have lost their kids to DCFS.
I'm a full functioning addict. I still feel like an addict.
Really?
It doesn't go away. It doesn't ever go away. The first 3 or 4 years, I'd wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night. A lot. I still have those. That still happens.
What do you do when that happens to stay sober?
I stay very, very busy. I am very. I live in my garage. I refurbish boats. I'll buy anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8 of them a year. I build a dozen motors. I build the outdrives. I do my own upholstery work. I'm a superintendent for a very large construction company. I've got 29 years with them. I got out of Odyssey House. I seen an ad in the paper. I filled out the application. I went to work the next day.
And so do you want to use the name of the company or not?
Yeah, Leighton Construction.
Okay, and they're huge. They've built so many significant projects around here.
Okay, so they're bigger than you think. My understanding is they just merged with the STO group, which is a group out of New York. And when I started with the company, they were like 175th largest in this country nationally. And now they've bumped up to like number 4. So we're looking at work in Ireland, UK.
Wow.
We're turning world. Dave Leighton is really.
It's a great company. I know. And I'm surprised that they hired you right out of Odyssey House.
My background.
Did that taint their decision at all? I mean, did they have trouble with that?
So, I'm going to give you more. The first 2 or 3 months in Odyssey House, I think it takes that long to realize how down to the bottom of the barrel you actually were, because you don't know till you look up. By the time I was out of Odyssey House, I had my head fairly screwed on straight. And my father was a general contractor. I've got 48 years doing what I do. I was qualified for the job. What are they going to do? I'm sober. I can prove I'm sober for 7 months, 8 months.
And you didn't have a criminal background, too.
I have no criminal background. They never got caught.
Not that you shouldn't have had a criminal background.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had a DUI. But in Wyoming, it's a hick town. It's get pulled over. I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. Inch of snow, going up the road. My brother's in the car. 2 o'clock in the morning. Cop pulls me over. My brother says, "Hey, you're on the wrong side of the road." So I just get back on the right side of the road. Cop pulls me over. He says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I says, "Well, no." And he says, "Well, you was driving on the wrong side of the road." And I said, "That's what he said."
And the cop let you off?
They wasn't out for the brownie points. They wanted to make sure you got home safe.
Oh.
I just told him, I said, "Look, I live 2 blocks this way. I'm going home. I ain't going to be back out tonight." And I'm a functioning addict. I can pass the sobriety test. I've been drinking since 7 o'clock that morning. It didn't matter. I passed the sobriety test. He's worried about whether or not I'm going to hurt somebody. They wasn't out for the drunks. They're out to keep people safe.
It's different now.
Yeah, well, and I don't know and I don't care because I haven't had a drop of liquor. I haven't smoked any dope. I haven't had any cocaine. And I always figured I would drink again. I figured I'd smoke dope. I never seen anything wrong with it. But after going almost a year sober, why would you do that? And I still might drink someday. Someday my wife and I will be on a cruise and I'll have a glass of wine. Alcohol wasn't my problem though.
Right.
I can never do cocaine again. I can't do it.
Because you'd just be off to the races
I'd die.
again. Oh, okay.
I would die. I'm doing an 8 ball at a time in a 2-hour period by myself.
Wow.
Okay, if I was to do 1 gram of the quality I was doing then, right now, in a half hour's time, I'd be dead because my body wouldn't take it. My tolerance was too high.
What I was curious about, because you've obviously had a very successful life and you've been in recovery for a long time, is what values did you pick up from Odyssey
Oh, you have no idea.
that have stuck with you for
that
life?
list is unending. That's why
We
I'm
only have a
here.
half hour, so.
Yeah, so the deal is I listen to other people talk about their experiences and what they did and how they do it, and I don't know if they're going to make it, and they're a bunch of wimps. Odyssey House was a lot harder when I was in there, I think. I don't know.
It
because
was
I haven't
longer,
been.
and I think it was harder.
Okay, so the bottom line, and then I'll tell you how I got there, is it is a benefit. It was a beneficial program to anybody, and you don't have to be a drug addict to benefit because you learn about yourself. I have a lot of clicks. I talk a lot. I told you I could do this off the cuff for a half hour, no problem.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
and I'll have to cut you off at a half hour, so.
Yeah,
okay.
but anyways, so you learn a lot about yourself. The clicks I have, yeah, I talk a lot, and I'll interrupt people. I try not to interrupt you, but you know,
Appreciate it.
but these are my clicks, and I know what my clicks are. How many people know what their clicks are? Odyssey House teaches you that.
Odyssey House is known for being not addiction recovery, it's behavior modification.
It's correct. That's how it works. Because to begin with, I go into Odyssey House. The stats back then were like 85% of the people in the house were court committed. And I go in that house, so there's a bunch of nasty people in there. You know, these are bank robbers and whatever. And all these people in there were just like all the people I used to hang out with. It's like I felt I was at home. Okay, but now, as you go through the program, your peers are your therapists. And the staff is the mediators and the referees. And somebody puts a note in a thing, because you can't confront anybody on the floor about anything. I don't know how it works now.
Same.
Okay, so you have to confront them in the group.
We call it an encounter. I don't know what you called it back then.
I don't remember all the terminology.
Okay.
I don't have to know the terminology to remember
It sounds
the
like the
lessons.
basic concept's the same.
So, and if somebody comes up and says, hey, they don't like the way you speak to women, or they don't like the way that you show your body, or whatever your click
Right.
might be, and you have to respond, and the response has to be you have to say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but this is why I do that, and I don't have a problem with it, or whatever. You have to acknowledge the speaker, and you have to then you give them your version of how you want to react to the person, but you have to acknowledge first, and
Right.
and
And you do it in front of a group of
and you do
people.
it, it's all in a group.
Yes.
But you get 4 or 5 different people that don't even know what you put in the bowl, and they're all coming up with the same thing. Well, maybe you ought to look at that a little bit.
For sure.
So it's a self. Yeah, it was. I had a tough time for a little while, and the way things. Yeah, and the beds are made, and the floors are vacuumed, and the showers are wiped down before anybody ate breakfast at 6 o'clock. You had to work. I was in. Let's see. What they call it, B&B. Anyway, we did a lot of moving. We had a box truck, and we did moving, and then we had we put some fences in. We did a few other things too, depending on who was available. But it was just level. So you had your entry. What'd you call it?
Orientation.
Yeah. And you had your level one. Level one had to prove that you knew the rules and you could follow the rules, and you learned to keep yourself in check. Level two is over things. You're over the pencils and the paper and pillowcases and whatever else. You're over the physical things. Level 3, you're over people. Not allowed to talk to the opposite sex without a third person present until you reach level 4. If you wanted a toothbrush, it didn't matter what level you were. If you wanted a toothbrush, you had to put on a note. If it was level 1, you put on a note, I would like a toothbrush, and sign your name. You'd hand it to a level 2. When the level 2 got around to it, you'd hand it to a level 3. When level 3 get around to it, he'd get it to a level 4. When the level 4 got it, when he got around to it, he would sign it and send it back to a level 3, and then it would go back to a level 2 and then a level 1. And then they would give it back to me. I get the level 4 signature on that piece of paper. I can go to the toothbrush fairy dispenser guy and get my toothbrush, because it's babies and junkies want what they want when they want it.
Instant gratification.
Yes. See, that's the terminology they used. It's surprising.
She's been through Odyssey, so.
Yeah, I can tell. But for me not being there for 30 years, I still remember all these lessons.
Oh, yeah. I hope to be in your place.
And something strikes me, because you're working for this huge corporation, and I've worked for some large corporations too, and there's a protocol that's not necessarily that different than what you were describing for the toothbrush, that you have to go through some levels to get some things done.
Everything's structured.
Sure.
Especially the larger the company, the more structure you have.
Yeah.
And I'll never go any higher than what I am right now, because I don't fit under the desk, and I'm not a bobblehead that shakes my head and does what they want. I'm maxed. and
But you're happily maxed.
I'm okay where I'm at.
Okay, cool.
When I went into Odyssey House, I had 5 changes of clothes. I was in debt about $20,000 to the doctors for my the birth for my children, because I had no insurance when they were born. I was still in debt to them. Paid all that off. I had a house in Wyoming. I sold that, and got a job. I'm working. I came up with some money, and I drove back to Wyoming one day and with an envelope full of money, and paid off the people I got my drugs from, because
Really?
they know where you are and they know who you are. I dealt with some high level people, and they know where you're at. They know what you're doing, and if they want, and I got out clean. I paid them off. I said, I'm not coming back. See you. I handed them an envelope. In fact, it's funny. The guy that I owed it to, I got to town, made a phone call, said, hey, I'm in town. I got something for you. It wasn't 10 minutes later, and his brother was sitting behind me in a truck like that.
So you have a clean slate.
I have a clean slate. I handed him the envelope. I handed his brother the envelope. Hispanic people, you can deal with their family. You don't have to deal directly with the person you dealt with. That's how it works. I go to their house and watch football, and their wives sit in the kitchen, and they only come out to serve you beer. They're not allowed to talk to you.
Wow.
This old school Hispanics.
What football?
I don't watch.
I'm just kidding. I mean soccer.
I-
I'm Hispanic.
I have no problem with sports, just keep it off my regularly scheduled programming. But
So, and you were saying, and I actually saw some tears in your eyes when we were talking, that the last time you went back to your town was to bury your father. What was that like after all these
I didn't
years?
tell anybody I was coming into town. I called one person. He was the one guy that supported me and held on to some of my stuff while I was in Odyssey House. And I got it back from him after I got out. I didn't tell anybody. I have never, I think 3 people I've tried to call in the last 30 years that I used to know in a town that I grew up in for 20 years. I have no reason to ever talk to anybody there, ever again. I don't need it. I don't want it. So it was different. I don't plan on going back. I have no reason to. My brother's there. Maybe I'll go bury him someday. I don't know. But
How are your kids doing?
that's weird. I remarried about 2-3 years after I got out of Odyssey House. I remarried. She had 2. I had 2. I became a grandfather for the first time 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Our youngest is 33 years old, and we just got our first grandkid. I got one that lives in Elko, and we see him all the time. I bought a house down there, so I have property in 3 states right now. I have money in the bank. I do not have to work anymore. I worked hard.
Based on those values that you learned when you went
Based-
through treatment.
Odyssey House, there is not a day that goes by in my life that I don't think about something I learned at that place
Really? After all these years?
after all these years. But I'm probably the exception to the rule because I wanted it so bad when I went in to be sober. It was 2 hardest things I've ever done in my life. Was walk into Odyssey House was one of them, and raise 2 kids on my own was the other one. And it was hard. I was a volunteer. You got to do this. I got knocked back. I had 2 weeks before I could even go into the entry level. And it's an open door policy. Do you know how hard it was to stay?
Yeah, because you didn't have to.
No. Most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one just had a baby. The other one's got a house in Elko, makes twice the money I do. He's got a nice house. 2022 1-ton Duramax dually paid for. Then I've got a daughter. She just turned 33 a couple days ago, and my phone number is no good. I tried to call her, and haven't seen her in 5 years, 8 years, I don't know. I got a boy. He's in Orange County, just got out of prison, 6 years. I talk to him a couple times a week. Try to guide him. You raise them all the same, and they turn out different. Choices. It's all about choices. Everything's choices. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
Do
So
you think
I've made-
Odyssey changed your parenting?
No, I made some mistakes there. So, no, maybe. I wasn't in them. Children were not something that was talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in the women's and children's. I didn't have. I was a minority, and so I'm still a minority. I'm a white male raising 2 kids, and I didn't drink. I'm a minority in Utah. But, so
I sense the work ethic that you've
I
always had a
worked.
work ethic, though.
I avoided a lot of things by working all the time. If I had it to do again, I would never have kids.
Wow.
I had a bad experience. I had 10 years of misery, just straight up. You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the diaper bag, to feed your kids, to change the diapers, to take them to the daycare. So you could get off work at 6 o'clock at night and go get them and bring them home and cook something to eat and do the laundry and the dishes. I hated it. I didn't have anybody to back up on. I didn't have any. My brother was there. He was, yeah. What helps he? I didn't have any. Yeah, I was on my own, and it was hard, and I hated it. And it's not the daily; it's the everyday that never stops.
Sure.
Saturday, Sunday, it didn't make any difference. So.
We're almost out of time. If you had to give a message to people who are watching or listening about recovery and addiction, what would be your message to them?
Make the decision and follow through. It's you. It's if you can't do it if you don't want it. You got to want it. You got to tell yourself you want it. You got to tell yourself that nothing's going to hold you back. I have to go again. And then the other thing I'm going to let them know about is you're bringing out a lot now, but I'm not always like this. So what it's like when you're sober, it's just different. It's not better. It's not worse. This is the phase of life I'm in now. And, okay.
I think it's better.
I had a good time for 20 years.
Well, I had a good time being a drunk too, but it came to an end.
I didn't want it to stop. I was okay. I never figured I'd be 30 years old. I figured I'd be dead way before that. I didn't care.
But you wanted to stop.
For somebody else.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you made it through. Believe it or not, we're out of time, so I do have to cut you off, even though you like to talk. And I'm glad you like to talk, because it's a hell of a story for people to hear. And congratulations on your success in life, even though you're not keeping track of how long it's been.
Well, so from now on, I won't go back to Odyssey House. There's other things I need to work on. I don't have drug addictions now.
Yeah.
I'm coming up with these anger issues as I get older, and I'm going to have to deal with it. And I have to use the same tools.
Well, don't get mad at me, but I have to cut you off because
Okay.
we're out of time. Thank you for sharing your life with us. Appreciate it. Yeah. And Nicole, it was great to see you again.
You too.
And thank you for watching and listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.